Hello, and welcome to Mind and Money Show, where we talk all things mindset, money management, and our entrepreneurial journey. Along the way, we're going to throw in some amazing guests for good measure. I'm Shane Hyland.
I'm Gareth Shears. This show is going to change your life and teach you skills that school never taught you.
Boom.
Scott, welcome.
Well, it's not really welcome because we're at his place. We're out for a change.
Okay, we're out. We're actually out and about for a change. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we're not sat in the
Thanks for having us.
on the casting couch in the office. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. How's things going? Busy?
Yeah, very busy. Things going well. I've just got over COVID actually, so in that point where I'm just coming out of the sort of post-COVID cold type thing. So yeah, going all right at the moment. Can't complain.
I think I don't think there's many people left now, especially in the UK, who haven't actually had it. I don't think.
No,
we've had a good run of it, haven't we? Well, yeah, I hate to think how many times I've had it. You've had it twice.
Twice?
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm more than that.
Yeah, but no, similar to me, we were the last couple of people in my family, me and my wife, and then last weekend went to London for an event and made the mistake of getting on the tube, which is where I think I got it in the end.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, and you have just got to get on with it now.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, it's good. So, spill water over myself. Good start. So you're one of the co-founders of Bridewell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. To some extent, I was at the very beginning, but not technically the founder.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the very beginning.
Yeah, nice.
4 of us.
So let's take it back to the beginning then. Where did it all start?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good place to be when I was in school, because I wasn't very good at school. I was actually really good at sports, football and snooker being 2 key ones actually. Welsh champion snooker in juniors, and my plan was to turn professional. Gave that a go actually until I was sort of late teens. Played a lot around the circuit, a lot of people on TV now, but was never really engaged in school. Did terrible, sort of failed majority of my GCSEs. Couldn't really understand what I wanted to do, which is actually one of the reasons why I'm quite passionate about giving back at that level now in terms of the industry. But so when my snooker career didn't work out, I decided that I needed to get a job, and I did pretty much everything. I worked in warehouses, building sites, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and then sort of decided that actually I was going to try and do something in computers. So I did a few courses. I cut a longer story shorter. I got a job actually in the police as an agency member of staff. Filling in spreadsheets, doing whatever I was asked to do really. And that was where sort of, I guess my career, I started to think about a career. I spent 10 years in the police. Then I moved into different departments, criminal intelligence. I think by the time I left there, I was head of data management. So I had a big team, about 80 people, looked after a lot of high profile elements in the police around data protection, cybersecurity, DNA retention. And I just sort of, I think I was around about 22 when I had my son, and started to think about, right, you get a bit more serious then, don't you, when you've got to provide for others as well. So I decided really I needed to educate myself. So I started doing some on-the-job national vocational qualifications. And in the end, I was sort of like, what can I do that's going to really add beneficial to my career? So I looked at different qualifications. I actually remember Googling sort of best qualifications in the world. That's stupid, really, looking back. But I saw sort of business degrees, master's degrees, MBAs. And throughout that process, because I built quite a long sort of supervisory managerial career, I was able to qualify for an MBA or do a degree. And I thought, let's just go straight for the degree. What's the point? And I did. I managed to get a master's in business from no GCSEs, which was, that was a trial in itself, really. Sort of big imposter syndrome. Lots of intelligent people on the course really thinking I was out of my depth. And then I think after, coming up to about 10 years in the police, I got approached by the head of cybersecurity for IBM. Really important figure. I met him at an event and got offered an opportunity to apply. Went through, it was almost like The Apprentice, a big sort of an away day. You have different interviews. And I got a role there as a senior cybersecurity consultant. So I'd gone from 80 staff to no staff, but a better job, global reach as part of their global business services. And actually thought I knew it all at that stage. But I think, that was really for me where sort of really immersing myself into cybersecurity, and traveled the world with IBM. I worked out of the US, India, UK for a number of years. And then decided actually I was working for a family I didn't see, a house I didn't live in, but I was getting a lot out of it from a knowledge perspective. So I took a job actually in Cardiff for a company at the time called Adapt. They're now Rackspace, quite entrepreneurial, founder-owned, and you really got to get involved in a lot of things, exposure across the business, exposure technically. And I eventually got to a stage where I thought, actually, I can pretty much do everything here. I had quite a bit of business background from previous roles. I understood cybersecurity quite well. I'd got majority of qualifications there are to get in the world in cybersecurity. So I was really pretty much working 7 days a week, sort of. And when I wasn't working, I was learning.
Yeah.
And I decided to leave, set up my own company. Actually, at the time, it was called Cyber and Compliance Limited. Very original name. And when I told the organization, actually, they actually made me an offer for them to become a customer, which was great for me because it really sort of de-risked me. And that went from sort of strength to strength in about 10 months. And Bridewell then had literally just started. So I knew the owner of that company, and they asked me to start working with them, which I did under a sort of partnership.
Yeah.
But I think after about 3 months, they were saying, we'd like you to come in and work within the business. So it was all just the founders at the time. There were 4 of us originally. There's 2 after a year. And my main responsibility really was building out that business. So the services, the technical stuff, the people. And that was back in 2015. I think so. And it's been a really positive story, as I'm sure we'll touch upon. And that was it really. So point of 23, having a child and realizing I've actually got to do something here.
Wow. So a budding snooker career as well at the beginning.
Yeah, played quite extensively. I think a lot of people on the TV, especially the Welsh people at the moment, where I've practiced with them a lot and knew them at the time, but when I gave up, I completely gave up.
I was going to say, you still play a bit or not?
No, never. I played in the police, actually. I won the Welsh police thing every time I entered it at the time, but because they have quite an internal thing.
Yeah.
But it was a career for me. I did enjoy it as well, but going from playing 9 hours every single day, and you do sacrifice a lot.
Yeah.
Probably a good lesson for then going into business, because you are very committed at that stage.
Exactly.
Is that, you hear that a lot from other sports people, of almost when they finish, they don't continue it as a hobby. It's all or nothing, and once it's nothing, it's finished.
Yeah.
Whereas those that are playing at an amateur level almost try and compete at an amateur level, let's say football, into the 30s, 40s and maybe onwards, whereas those that have played at it just go, no, straight finish.
Yeah, well, I actually went back to football. I played football into my 30s then, because in the end I got to a stage where I had to choose because they were clashing a lot. So this sounds really sort of pretentious now, but I've recently bought a house and it had a snooker table in there. But then the chap asked to, do you want to leave this in? And I was like, no, because he knew my background. I was like, no, get it out. Because I've also got a bit of an addictive personality, and I knew I'd have been sort of back into it, and I just didn't want to go.
Hours every night.
Yeah.
Is that the bar room now, is it?
Do you know what? It's actually just full of boxes at the moment. We're still trying to, actually get settled in, but but he was like, why don't you want this? Because they actually, I knew them, mutual friends, but I just didn't want to be anywhere near it.
It's funny. I guess if you're striving to become professional at it, I guess when you can't do that, I guess you lose the love of it.
One of the things I think when you can't play at the same level is, I mean, one of the biggest things I ever learned from snooker was a poker face. Being absolute raging inside and not being able to do anything. When you're not practicing, you're not playing at the same level. It doesn't really compute because you still expect to do the same things, and just not interested.
Is that the head record now that whatever your maximum break or a 147, whatever it may be in the past, you've had that in you, and you go back now and you haven't picked up a cue in days, weeks, months, or even years, and everything is rusty. It's the same as any sport, and it's a frustration and there's there may be no enjoyment there for the first while you get your eye back into it and all that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's quite good for our company events when we have pool games or something for hustling everybody.
I was going to say the shark comes out.
Then it's like that. Yeah, don't play.
Give them a few drinks. Let them win a few, and then
definitely.
It seems from chatting there and listening to you from a very young age that there was a drive within you all of the time to almost progress. That no matter what was thrown in front of you, you almost found a way to pivot and adapt and get on with it, and a motivation. But now you are where you are at this moment. What's the motivation now? Where business owner and where you are. Whereas in the past you were saying, I'm in school. I haven't done well in school. I've climbed up a ladder. What drives you or motivates you now?
There's a couple of things really. I think obviously children was that initial trigger for me, and being able to create a better life, all standard stuff, but really important to everybody, isn't it? And but I think one of the interesting things for us, so we've been really achieving quite strong growth. I think we're probably the fastest growing company in the UK from a cybersecurity perspective. You look at the similar businesses, and I don't think anybody over the last 2 years has grown as fast. And we completed a private equity deal last year, and for us, as we've been going for 10 years, and it was about we're looking at international scale and really the next level up. And I am going to get to the motivation bit, but you almost start to look back and you can see other people in similar situations. I think from the organizational perspective, you think you're always the person learning until you start to look across the company and there's sort of 170 people, and you think, actually, and then you feel like you can give something back. So there's a couple for me. Motivation is, I think, one is from a personal belief in the company and where I think it can go and where we are planning to go. We have more than motivation. We've got commitments to achieve what we've set out to do and plans. But I think above that is being able to bring that next generation through in our organization. So I can step back a bit. I've worked, I say sometimes to people almost like 35 years in, say, 20 years of work experience. And being able to present those, having the positive go, presenting those opportunities to others within our organization, which is I think it's more of a reward than a motivation, I guess. Yeah. But I think for now, it's about trying to make sure we, as a business owner, you work so hard to get it off the ground and operating, and when it is starting to work more like a machine, is making sure that you've got the right things in place, that you're not neglecting your family, because I think all those things suffer while you're really trying to scale, and everyone around you, for me personally, has been quite understanding. So you're trying to make sure you've got those checks and balances in place that you can get a bit better life balance, still achieving the same, but so similar motivations, I think, to originally. But
I think the life balance one is a good one, because it's obviously hard in what you do as well, because especially if you're dealing with clients all around the world, to try and get that balance. Sometimes you've got to be on a call with America or whatever, or I don't know, do you go as far in the world you go as a company, I guess?
Well, we're more of our customers than us as a company, but they're pretty global. So
Yeah.
Southeast Asia, North America.
Yeah, so your
UK.
time zones then you're kind of governed by, and it is trying to get that balance, isn't it? Making sure you have the family time, because it's so easy to neglect that, and you never get that time back, do you?
No, exactly. I think I've spoken to a lot of other people some in the industry, some other business owners. I think that is something you constantly beat yourself up over. Even now, my son is 18, but during that time, you do miss quite a lot, and I think you're constantly juggling with have I done the right thing here, and is it all going to be worthwhile at the end of it?
I think everyone does that. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've brought up listening to you now twice, even in the short period of time that we chatted about the family life and that, and where it was IBM before, and we're not looking for numbers or anything, but having a good package going around the world, but realizing at a very young age that the whole idea of happiness isn't derived from money or a big salary or a valuable package deal. It's about, as Gareth said, the balance of having money and enough money to do what you want when you want with the loved ones, and possibly being home for most bath times at night and taking kids to school and seeing concerts, where it's a big thing to make that jump from a big company and being safe to potentially not being safe. But the benefits seem to far outweigh it, and it just seems now a lot of the feelings and getting of the motivation, even that, is all family orientated, and knowing that you can't have those days back no matter how much money you have.
Yeah, 100%. I think I had a lot of family bereavement as well myself, quite a young age, and I think that's one of the hardest ways to learn it as well. But it's also, as as I'm in the position I am now, setting that sort of groundwork for all of our employees. You're trying to make sure they can see it as well, because I think it's great to be motivated and want that drive in you, and you have to have it. There's no getting away from it. But it's equally trying to make others see you on that same mission, just making sure that they're planning effectively. We, a very early stage in the company's history, we had a business coach actually, and we just went to a seminar randomly, really clicked with this person, and I think we liked him because he was really challenging to us, and he sort of said, could your company survive without you? And me and my business partner were like, no, we'd do everything type thing. He's like, well, you haven't got a company then. He's like, you've got a job.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, okay. And it just changing that mindset, I think, of trying to make things work for you so you don't all end up in an early grave and, the business succeeds.
Yeah, exactly. I think you make a good point there. And we come across a lot of business owner clients, and we're like, so what's your plans for your financial independence retirement? And I'm going to sell my company. And the question I ask is, could your company run without you? And they're like, no, you can't sell your company then.
Yeah.
And that is the truth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like you're not going to get somebody to buy your company or buy into your company unless they can see that it can run without you at the helm.
Yeah. I think, without trying to sound, big-headed or anything about it, I think when I learned that quite a long time ago, that it's almost the biggest turnoff. If you are the company, like, and you're looking to sell your company, well, you can, that is going to be the biggest value detractor, and all those other things, and that's something that we actively work towards in our business, is trying to make sure that it operates independently of us, not us being critical to it.
Well, if you are the company and you are selling yourself, to somebody that's going to buy you, and then he or she is going to own you.
Yeah.
And so they are going to want their pound of flesh and more.
Yeah.
So you're just selling your soul to be at the beck and call of somebody else, which defeats the purpose of you being a business owner.
Yeah. And it's huge risk for the investors, I think, when they're coming in and they're paying large sums of money. You could leave, you could die, all those things. It has to, and they've bought nothing then, essentially. So, like you said, you need to be thinking of that day one, and we were lucky enough to have that drummed into us at quite an early stage. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's like, so we work with, we've got coaches like you talk about as clients of ours, and we also work with clients who've got coaches.
Yeah.
and it's something that we're big believers in because we've had coaches, we still do, and it does make a huge difference because as a business owner, it's very difficult to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
And actually,
Yeah,
you do carry that kind of arrogance or swagger with you. It's kind of like, I know what I'm doing. But at some point, you've got to go, well, actually, I don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
And it is good for somebody to actually challenge you on it.
Yeah, it was quite interesting because I was quite against it at first. So I was like, well, I've got a master's in business. Why do I need a business coach? Which was quite funny now looking back because, yeah, we did outgrow him, but we still speak now and he's a great guy. But it was transformational for us really at that point, just in terms of how we thought about planning the business and ourselves. We were saying like, never get time to take leave, never get time to do this. And he was like, well, you're just not planning in advance enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you don't have time next week, but could you take 2 weeks off in 10 months time? Yeah, we could, but we just weren't planning it. So just changing the mindset.
And you get scared, don't you? It's being scared sometimes as a business owner that if I do take that time off, the business is going to collapse.
Yeah. And I think when you're at that stage of, you know, really building, and you can't get away from the fact that sometimes you are the person holding everything together, but we had to change our mindset to sort of look at like, what value are we bringing versus what are we doing every day. And he sort of come up with this value axis of like, you know, high value, low effort. It's basically everything in this box you need to outsource or get someone, employ someone. And that's pretty much what we did. We just sort of kept chunking those things up, building out new departments, and really so we could focus on the things that are having the most value and equally getting better balance then.
Yeah, exactly. It's something we've done. We outsource so much of what we do.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that we just do the stuff that is actually client facing really then.
Do, delegate or delete, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, something we introduced quite a while back, and it does make a huge difference. And it is one of the hardest things for an owner to do sometimes.
Well,
to get those tasks,
all those things I just mentioned are still challenges. You know, you don't just sort of solve it, but you just keep going. But I think as well, because we've kept growing, those problems, you know, they just become on a higher level, but it's going in the right direction type thing.
But a business owner can't decide on the font of the headed paper and what color paper clips there are and what the new coffee machines have to be, and dealing with the technology and the rent and all of that. You have to, otherwise you're going to be absolutely no good yourself. Yeah, doing the expertise that you're setting the business up for. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we struggled with as well was like, especially when we tried to hire at senior level, was, you know, they're just not as motivated as we are. And it's like, and again, business coach was saying, well, that's why you're doing what you're doing, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. So you can't expect everyone to do that. But equally, as we started to progress, we were starting to think, well, how can we bring people into that same level of incentivized? And that's where we've created our own share scheme within the company. So once people hit certain thresholds, so they are that invested then, and that's been a big help for us, realizing you can give something up to achieve something more. Because I think we were at one stage like, this is all ours. We've worked hard and this is everything. But, you know, giving that little bit to achieve more together, I think is really helped us.
That's a big thing. And it's hard, isn't it, to do?
Yeah, definitely.
Is there 180 in the company at this?
180 in the company at the moment. Yeah. So our plan is to be at 220 by the end of this year. But I would be surprised, and you quote me back on it, if we're not around 250. So it's growing well. It's growing sensibly as well. I think we could probably be double the size now, but it's quite a difficult industry to recruit in, but it's also very easy to recruit bad people. So we've been quite selective in trying to bring that in properly, handle the growth properly as well. But we're at, I think, around about 180, and we're bringing in around about 10 to 15 people a month at the moment. So it's quite, growing quite well.
So here's a question. We've kept this in from kind of the very first show that we've done, and it's all about resilience or mental strength and all that. There's going to be days where you're up at the top of the tree and you're going to have a bad day, and you know, whether that be home life, whatever it may be. With all those 180, how do you keep a happy face, and how do you deal with the crap days, basically.
Yeah. Well, probably don't all the time. I think it's probably fair to say. I don't think, obviously, being in that leadership position, you do have to try. How can you motivate anyone else if you don't feel motivated yourself? And you do have those days when you're not motivated or so on. So, I think we've built quite a comprehensive structure. We've built a full board, and there's a lot of things that I don't touch on those 180 people, but. It's a difficult one. I think I try to do my own things in terms of, your own breaks, your own time. But sometimes it is just putting on that face, I think, for the rest of the group. And sometimes, my wife will watch me come off a Teams call and it's like, because you are literally trying to act like really enthusiastic about something. So, yes, definitely a challenge and part of the job.
So is there downtime then? As in, if snooker was, I know it's not now for you, but some people like the outlay of a sport or something. What is the out time for you now?
Yeah, I mean, the standard sort of spending time with family and things like that. But I enjoy boxing. Do a fair bit of that. I've got a bit of my own stuff, and I go to a few clubs. Just standard sort of gym things, really. Walks. Yeah, I'll try anything pretty much. I enjoy quite a lot of water sports as well. It's just really trying to make sure you're away from the desk sometimes. One of the things I've noticed with lockdown, I don't know if you've had this, but you just find like some days there'll be 5 hours where I won't even take a pee sometimes because it's back-to-back sort of calls. And I was just chatting to somebody yesterday actually to say some of these calls I don't actually need to physically see any documents on my computer, so we're just going to try, like, you go for a walk, I'll go for a walk. Just try and get away because we're both stuck on this call for an hour. We're just talking to each other. So yeah, we're gonna start giving. I've seen other companies doing
like a phone call instead of
having a walk because there are quite a lot of meetings where it's just dialogue. Really, you don't need to see stuff. So, but yeah, I think it's important you take those breaks as well. But for me, I have to sort of schedule those in because my calendar's full at least 2 weeks ahead. So I make sure breaks are scheduled in really. Like everything I do is, well, one of the things I did a while back was I never got time to actually do any of my tasks because I was always trying to help other areas, and it just became an ever-growing list. And I watch, I enjoy personal development as a subject anyway, and quite, into reading books and things. But it was one of some is making your to-do list actually, like bringing it into the calendar. So rather than just having this ever-growing list, you actually schedule it because it would just grow for me, and that helps.
Yeah, that's a big thing I do. So it's something that I brought in 2 years ago, or maybe no, probably 18 months ago. So my diary now looks like Monday. I won't do any client meetings on a Monday, or Friday. So my client meetings will only be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which can be sometimes absolute carnage.
Yeah.
I'll be just going from back to back to me. I don't know whether I'm coming or going. And I have toyed with actually getting rid of Wednesday now and only doing Tuesday and Thursdays.
Yeah.
So I can pack it out. But yeah, like on a Monday, I try and schedule in. Like we do a lot of recording on a Monday, so we block everything. So on a Monday, we'll record 6 YouTube videos on a Monday, a podcast, and other social media stuff as well.
Yeah.
And we just block it in. And then the idea is then the rest of the week we don't need to anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's done, it's then off, it's been edited and so on and so forth, and we can then concentrate on actually the tasks that generate the money for the business then as well.
Yeah, I love the meetings going out and about. I know, and I don't know many of the smaller businesses that have bought it on board, but I know the bigger organizations that I know of, and know people within there, the walk and talk meetings are scheduled in the diary. And as you say, a lot of people that have been working at home for the last few months, sat down in front of a computer is not healthy. Sat down in front of the computer means you're near the fridge. It means you snack on stuff. You don't get fresh air. You're lethargic. And just getting out for that half an hour and just having that business conversation, it is private, but nobody's going to hear you or give anything away when you're just walking past them out in the countryside. You're getting fresh air. You're getting your steps in. You're not eating unhealthy. There's exercise, the whole lot. I think it is almost therapeutic for the last 2 years, and long may it continue, I think.
Yeah. We definitely, as a company as well, we've tried to make sure that we, at the beginning of lockdown, we run quite a lot of surveys and just to see how everyone's doing. And you get a lot of great feedback through that, but you do get some stupid stuff as well, and stuff that's impossible for you to implement to some extent. And
Give us an example. Come on.
One of the ones we had was take breaks from your computer, and we were like, well, everyone can do that whenever they want. How do I make someone in Scotland take a 10-minute break after their thing? And it was like, if obviously that, but what we were trying to say was this person's clearly not having a break, or we couldn't work because they're all anonymous. But we just thought, well, if we take that for what it is, how can we make people have breaks?
Yeah.
We can't effectively, but what we did, we have a yoga session in the company every Friday.
Oh, nice.
And it's virtual over Teams, but it's based around relaxing as opposed to because we didn't get high numbers at first. And we're like, you don't have to wear gym kit. You don't have to turn your cameras on. You can just do this at your desk type thing. And that's been pretty good. But it was a way of, well, we're trying to encourage you to do something here and putting something on. But yeah, I don't think there's one magic bullet, is there? It's just trying to promote that across the making people feel like they can take that time off. We're pretty flexible with staff generally, but you have got to get the job done as well, unfortunately.
And is it like a business that you have to try things? And it's trial and error. Some things may work and some things may not work. It's exactly like the business. Yeah,
definitely. But we have seen that through lockdown, especially with, employees' mental health, actually engagement as well across the teams. I think we've really tried to make a thing of getting people physically. We had not long after lockdown, I know this could come across COVID irresponsible, but we didn't feel like it was. But we usually have a quarterly company event. We've done it for the last 3 from 6 people to what it is now. But the first time we could physically meet, I think we were about 120 people then. We just put on a day where it was like human table football, axe throwing, all this different just fun and games for everyone for the day. But yeah, it was quite amazing just to think how many people you've been working with for 2 years, and you couldn't remember whether you'd ever physically met them.
That's what I was about to say. I can imagine there's a lot of people there who'd physically never met. You know what I mean? And people probably who'd onboarded into the company who'd physically actually never been to a building.
But the impact that had, just people getting face-to-face time and having a bit of fun, was worth every penny from it. It cost us a lot of money to put on, but it's worth every penny.
Yeah, but I'd say it's giving back, isn't it? Like you're saying, that's one of the big things you wanted to do.
Yeah, definitely. But it's like you touched upon earlier, though. You're constantly trying to motivate, close to 200 people when you're actually you're just a human being yourself. I mean, you'll get people telling you they're stressed and having a really tough time, and you're like, just try and manage 200 people. Even but I think each person's situation is unique, isn't it? It's like if you've had your arm chopped off and someone says, well, you could have no legs or something. You're always in your own situation, and I think I try to remember that, because yes, my situation might be more stressful, but to that person, it's everything to them at that stage.
Yeah. You talked about money there, and we have to bring up a question because of who we are. We talk a lot about financial freedom, and it's a very simplistic thing for us. It's the ability to do what you want when you want without ever running out of money, or without the fear of ever running out of money.
Yeah.
Do you, as much as you have a business with 200 people and it's growing that quickly, and I presume everything is road mapped out from the business point of view, is it road mapped out for you? Do you know what the future holds for you?
Roughly now, if you'd have asked me probably 2 years ago, it would just be keep building Bridewell, keep building it as much as we possibly can. One of the things I didn't mention on the motivators, actually, when we're going back to my son being born, and we used to take all the grandkids to my parents' house, and it was chaos. And this is where I started looking at his master's degrees. It's quite vivid memory for me. But one of the things was I was absolutely terrible with money. I was never going to save anything. It just burned a hole in my pocket. So the big driver was, how do I actually try and earn more money? Because I'm just not saving anything at the moment. And I'm not as bad as that now or anything, but I think, going through a private equity process as well, preparing for that process, you're asked that as individuals as much as, what's the plan for the company, is what's your aspirations. And I think that obviously the financial elements you start to focus on quite heavily, but then the actual sort of what do you want to be doing in the next 3 years. So yeah, for me, for Bridewell, I think we've got quite a robust 5-year plan over the next 5 years, where we will then look to do perhaps another round of private equity. And for me, that's sort of starting to move away from the business then, and look more into like non-executive type roles, and actually just sort of try and have a bit more me time than sort of company and everyone else time, really. So that's the plan for me at a really high level, and just trying to put those building blocks in place now for that to happen.
Yeah, because that's a natural progression when you're doing what you're doing with the company, isn't it? At some point, you're probably going to exit, aren't you, and go into those non-exec type roles whereby you can give your experience from the ground up to actually the equity sale and the management buyout or whatever it may be.
Yeah,
you can give that 11. You can give a huge amount back then, but it also gives you your time back then. You get to pick and choose then, don't you?
Yeah. But for me as well, it's also a way off, so it's not something that's forefront to my mind. Back to some of that motivation, we've got a lot. One of the biggest differentiators is our people for our company. We've got some unbelievable people there, and it's making sure that wherever we see where they need to develop, they're moving up the ladder, which is a great thing for retention as well, because they can see all the opportunities. We've got some people being with us from the very beginning. And then equally from my own perspective, then I got to a stage, if you'd have asked me 3 years ago, I couldn't tell you what I actually enjoyed doing. I'd lost anything for myself, because every single solitary thing I did was work, or it was about someone else.
Yeah.
So going back to that, constantly beating yourself up, not spending enough time with your children, not spending enough time with your family. I'm very close to my wider family. I've got 3 sisters. So it was like, if I wasn't working, I'd be trying to visit another family member, just trying to keep all those things balanced. And I remember I couldn't tell you what I actually enjoyed, which was sad.
It's not surprising, because I think there are a huge amount of business owners that are exactly in the same boat.
And one of the biggest problems, I still have it now, is I absolutely love what I do. I know a lot of people say that, but I really love the subject matter. I could talk to people for days on end. So then I don't feel like I'm working as in if I was doing a job I hated, but obviously it does feel like you're working, but it's a blessing and a curse, actually. I fell into it and then loved it, but you don't notice the hours you're doing sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Other people can see it in you and see the impact, but you can't see it yourself.
You're not clocking in and then looking at the clock, and you watch and 5 minutes later it's only a few minutes.
No,
it's constantly taking time to get through the day.
Yeah,
it just flies for you, man.
Yeah, and we again we've learned quite a lot over the last 2 years, but we were terrible at celebrating wins as well. It was like you'd have a really good success. And there were times when I probably pulled sort of good all-nighters, 24 hours, working solid for proposals and things like that. We'd win this piece of work, and it would be our biggest contract, and then the next day it'd be like, right, how are we going to deliver it now? And we were never taking that time out to actually turn back and think, well, we've done okay here. These are good wins, and that's something it's more doing it for other people now, because our is sort of gone for us. But when you see other people in that similar position in the company, it's just saying, like, go out, have a drink or a meal, do whatever you want to do, that gives that yourself a reward and stuff, because so you can't get the time back then, all the wins and things like that.
What was that in the past? Was that embarrassment, imposter syndrome, or a fear that we've done well now, but at some stage we might not do well and somebody will shoot us down? Or
I think it was just drive and panic, really. So yeah, just sort of thinking drive in terms of making sure we're driving the company, but panic as in, like, this is we need to get all the things in order. That's the main thing, really. Just, and as soon as that was gone, it was like, where's the next one? But not always the healthiest thing.
No.
Yeah, no, but I think we all kind of fall into that, don't we? The final question you ask is, so what's next for you? I think you kind of covered that off with the fact that kind of you've got that plan ahead of what happens with Bridewell and yourself. So unless there's anything particularly else.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I can talk for Wales in case you haven't guessed, but I think the sort of short term is I'm going to be spending quite a bit of time in the US over the next couple of months. So
Nice.
going out 2 weeks, we've just opened in Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
So I'm there for a few weeks, just building out. We've got quite a lot of meetings. We've just we've got customers, but it's how do we bring more customers, and we're running a few events. And then I'm in San Francisco in June to look to further explore
Nice.
the US, but it's quite daunting for us. But that is immediate short term, and then hopefully try and get a holiday in between some of that as well.
Yeah,
Well, you said earlier on you book out in advance. That the time has to be done. It's just paying and finding the place to go to now.
Yeah, but I'm a good liar as well. I've got no holidays booked. Yeah, just had a week's leave actually, and had COVID 3/4 of it, and then thought, okay, we'll enjoy the next quarter, and then my wife caught COVID, so we just spent most of that at home. But plan is I do have actually I'm going to Canada actually in August with family again. So that's the plan in the short term. But
Superb.
You got to enjoy it.
There we are.
Thanks.
Lovely. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, then please subscribe and remember to follow us on social media for more content like this.